Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 5.
Breaking news tonight out of Detroit Lakes. One woman has been arrested from a local massage parlor. She's in the Becker County Jail tonight on charges of prostitution and disorderly house. Valley News Team's Courtney Lockie joins us live from Detroit Lakes with all the details. Courtney.
Andrea, I'm outside of the Sunny Asian Health Massage Parlor. This is where 6-year-old Jin Mon Lee was arrested earlier today. I want to bring back up her mugshot for you guys. Now, Lee is in the Becker County Jail tonight on charges of prostitution and disorderly house. Authorities say she's the only one they have in custody right now, but that search warrants were also conducted at 2 other residences affiliated with the business. Local law enforcement, along with several other agencies, including the Minnesota BCA, as well as the Drug Task Force, are still investigating. Live in Detroit Lakes, Courtney Lockie, Valley News Live.
All right, thanks, Courtney, for that live report. Stick with Valley News Live for updates on this story. A search for a wanted fugitive in Dickinson ends in an officer-involved shooting with 1 man dead. Officials say 25-year-old Dakota Lee Schlarson was wanted for an armed robbery in Idaho. Authorities say he was shot this morning when law enforcement were searching for him in an apartment building, and he charged at them with scissors. He was given emergency medical treatment on scene but died due to his injuries. No officers were injured. Good thing we had sunshine today because the Arctic air, as you know, is brutal, but there's hope on the horizon. First, let's find out about this evening. Hutch has our no-wait weather planner.
All right, taking a look at those temperatures this morning that were just plain old nasty, and factor in the winds, it was even more ridiculous. Fargo had 24 below. One of the warm spots, you go just a couple of miles off to the east, Dilworth, 29 below there, and a 30-degree below this morning in Mentor. Hey, it was also cold elsewhere around the region. How about Waukon? At almost 40 below zero there. Pearly and Ada in the 30s below, not far from the FM area. Hey, the sun felt nice, and the lack of wind, well, it felt nice as well. We have a wind chill advisory tonight as opposed to a warning. That means wind chills between 25 and 40 below zero are expected. Temperatures are coldest from the Red River and points east. We managed to sneak above zero in Jamestown today. There's the coldest wind chills off in the Thief River Falls area tonight. Temperatures will be plummeting pretty quickly into the teens below zero. Light winds that will increase overnight. Grand Forks, it looks chilly as well tonight with the teens below. Won't be as cold. It will still be wind chilly. Friday brings all kinds of weather to the valley. It will bring warmer weather, Andrea, and that might make you smile, but Hutch knows of a couple hiccups that you'll want to know about. In tomorrow's forecast, we'll have that in just a few moments.
All right, thanks, Hutch. A new flood outlook from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says there hasn't been much change, saying the Red River and Devil's Lake basins still have significant risk of snow melt flooding. And today, dozens of National Guard members met in Jamestown, acting out scenarios and putting plans in place as the spring melt inches closer. Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley talked with some of those members today who say they're prepared for the worst.
Roads and fields like this were a harsh reality for many in the eastern part of the state this fall. But all that water hasn't gone anywhere. It's just waiting for a spring warm-up and snow melt. And depending how fast that happens, emergency management leaders, including the North Dakota National Guard, are prepping for what could be a disastrous flood.
This flood fight may be a little bit different than the ones that we've had in the past.
Officials say it's too early for any concrete predictions, saying how the month of March pans out will be the key.
The eastern part of the state has a lot of snowpack, and we were really wet going into the fall. So, it's likely that, Jamestown and east somewhere in there is probably some of our more likely scenarios.
And those eastern parts are exactly where most of today's scenarios focused on. Officials planning where both extra members and equipment will be needed and which parts of the state those resources will come from.
Specific equipment involves hauling sandbags, maybe doing some sandbagging. It's a levee patrol sometimes we use aviation.
Commander Ryan says they rely on both actions taken in previous floods along with what mitigations have been made in those areas since, adding he thinks this flood will call for smaller crews but spread across several different areas.
We will look at supporting larger communities, but we also need to support the local smaller communities and the rural areas as well.
While prepared for the what-ifs, officials say, like the rest of us, they're hoping for a slow melt and dry spring. In Jamestown, Bailey Hurley, Valley News Live.
Officials say Guard members will only be deployed if and when Governor Doug Burgum requests their assistance. Grand Forks police are alerting the public to a high-risk sex offender now living in the area. Officials say Dwight Moses now lives at 1702 20th Avenue South in Grand Forks. Moses was convicted of gross sexual imposition involving force or threat of serious bodily injury or kidnapping, gross sexual imposition in which the offender is an adult and the victim is under age 12, or kidnapping and the adult offender is other than the victim's parent. Moses must register for a lifetime. 2 people are now being indicted in connection with a child sex crime investigation in Velva, North Dakota. Federal prosecutors say Katie Heidinger made her initial appearance February 11th on 6 counts of producing sexually explicit images of minors and 1 count of distributing those images. She's being held without bond pending trial. A co-defendant, Derek Walker, faces the same 6 charges along with a separate count of receipt of images depicting the sexual exploitation of minors. Police are linking the drop in temperatures to an increase in car thefts because people are letting their vehicle run to warm it up. The Fargo Police Department says it has 24 reports of stolen vehicles so far this month. The main factor in the majority of these thefts, a key left inside the vehicle. If you do start your car ahead of time, make sure to have a spare key and then lock your vehicle. Today, the U.S. is reporting its 15th coronavirus case, while China is reporting 254 new deaths and a one-day spike in virus cases of more than 15,000. The outbreak of the coronavirus now impacts 20 countries worldwide, including the U.S. But relatively few cases are outside China. There is some good news today for Americans who are quarantined on cruise ships in Asia. NBC's Bill Neely reports from Hong Kong.
The big news is a huge spike in the numbers of deaths and infections being reported by the Chinese. Why has this happened? Well, the Chinese have changed the way they record the figures. If you go to a doctor and you get a chest scan and that shows a lung infection, basically that means you have the virus and you can be treated in a hospital, and that's why the numbers have spiked, but that still doesn't explain the large rise in the number of deaths. They've also had a purge. They have fired the 2 top officials in the worst hit province and replaced them with men who are very close to President Xi Jinping. So Beijing is basically laying the blame for the problems on local officials. They've also done something extraordinary. They've declared wartime control in areas of 2 cities. But some relief in sight for Americans who've been caught up in all of this. One ship that held 650 Americans has now docked in Cambodia. And on another one, although the number of infections of Americans has risen, another 7 now infected. Some of those on board, many Americans, are being allowed to leave the ship in Japan, although they still will be under quarantine. Bill Neely, NBC News, Hong Kong.
The CDC says there will likely be additional cases in the U.S. in coming days and weeks, including among other people recently returning from Wuhan. Defense Secretary Mark Esper said today that the U.S. and the Taliban are close to a 7-day reduction in violence. Esper told NATO defense ministers that the U.S. had a number of meetings with the Taliban, and he hopes to have more to report.
It is our view that 7 days for now is sufficient, but in all things, our approach to this process will be conditions-based. Let me say it again, conditions-based. So it will be a continual evaluative process as we go forward, if we go forward.
On Wednesday, the Taliban issued an ultimatum to Washington after weeks of talks with a U.S. peace envoy. They threatened to walk away from the talks if they didn't receive a reply to their offer of a 7-day reduction of violence. The cold weather caused pipes to burst inside a school in the metro, forcing school leaders to cancel classes today. The West Fargo Community High School dismissed students for the day because of the issue. The water had to be shut off to a portion of the Ladone Community Center, and crews are working to assess the damage. Today is Giving Hearts Day, a day dedicated to helping out hundreds of charities and nonprofits in the region. Currently, Giving Hearts, the website, is reporting over $13 million raised today. Authorities in South Carolina say they have found the body of a 6-year-old girl missing since Monday. Authorities made the grim announcement this afternoon. 6-year-old Faye Swetlick disappeared from the front yard of her home not long after getting off the school bus Monday afternoon. Her body was found somewhere in her neighborhood today. Police also say the body of a deceased man has been found in the community.
It is with extremely heavy hearts that we are announcing that we have found the body that the coroner has identified as Faye Maureen Swetlick. We are now treating this case as a homicide.
Police have not said yet how Faye or the unidentified man died.